Hi there, smart drivers, talking to you about passing your driver's test and the role that driving examiners, the testers, play in you getting your driver's license, being successful or being unsuccessful. Tips, strategies, and techniques that you need to have in place to be successful in passing your driver's test first time. Crusty old driving instructors, and yes, unfortunately, some government personnel do in fact look like this. They look pretty miserable and pretty grumpy, and they got up in the morning and put their pants on and went into the bathroom and they stepped in dog poop, and then they brushed their teeth and the toothpaste was empty, and they went downstairs and they made themselves some coffee and cleaned off their foot and those types of things, and went to pour the cream in their coffee and the cream is sour, and just had a really horrible morning. And unfortunately, they come to work, they get in the car with you, and they take it on you as the person taking your driver's test. It does happen, but for the most part, driving examiners, driving testers are doing a really excellent job, okay? 98% of them are on the ball, they know what they're doing, and they're fair in their assessment of helping you out. Now, on that note, if you are taking your driver's test in the city of New York, they will not give you a feedback anymore. They will not tell you whether you passed or failed. They will not give you a debrief. After 6 p.m. on the day that you take your test, you have to log on to their website and you will determine whether you passed or failed. Unfortunately, far too many people have abused driving examiners in the city of New York, and this is the way that they've gotten around it, instead of telling you and giving you a debrief, which I think is, unfortunately, that's losing. A lot of people are losing out who are not getting that feedback on their driver's test and whatnot. Good stuff to have a look at. Shoulder checks, shoulder checks, shoulder check. And this will be down in the description after when I put up the replay, so have a look at that. And as well, top 4 must-have skills: speed management, space management, observation, and communication. I'll talk more about these in after the presentation, but have a look at that video to find out what skills you need to have in place regardless of where you take your driver's test, because driving is driving. And I know that there is people that believe that a driving test in Missouri is different than a driving test is in Mississippi, which is simply not true. Driving is driving, okay? And right of way is right of way. I mean, there are some minor differences, road culture and those types of things. And if you want to get really, really picky about driving tests, every driving test is different, because every driving test is in a different place, and traffic is different in every place, every different time of the day. So you're never going to have the exact same driving test. Driving testers, examiners, what is their job? Their job is to assess your ability to have due care and control of the vehicle in changing traffic conditions. That's what their job is. They're assessing if you are safe to be on the roadway with the vehicle, and you are going to execute a standard of care for both yourself and other traffic on the roadways. Your job is to take away the driving examiner, the driving tester's right to fail you. Nothing less, nothing more. First impressions when you show up for your driving test, okay? Make sure you have a shower, put on some decent clothes. If you show up in a and you're wearing a muscle shirt and you don't have any muscles because the muscles didn't come with the shirt, and your jeans are all ripped and you look like you haven't brushed your hair in 3 years, and your face is dirty because you just crawled out from underneath the car you were fixing and putting a new transmission in so you could take your driver's test, it's not likely that you're going to be successful on your driver's test. So think about having a shower, putting on some decent clothes, cleaning out the vehicle, vacuuming it, getting rid of all the fast food wrappers and those types of things. First impressions. Myths around driving examiners, testers. You can't wear sunglasses. If it's sunny and you have difficulty with the sun, wear sunglasses. I know that I cannot drive a car in the bright sun without wearing sunglasses, so know that. Don't engage in conversation. Yes, at the beginning of the test, do not engage in conversation. Halfway through the driver's test, if everything is going well and the driving examiner asks you a question or engages in conversation, then yes, that's fine. But don't initiate the conversation with the tester. Examiners work to fail you. That's false. They don't have a quota, and you have to speak perfect English. That is not true either. And examiners are unfair. This is not true. None of this is true. They don't have a quota. They don't try to fail people because they have managers that they have to answer to. There is a hierarchy within the test center, and if they're failing 4 out of 5 students, then the manager and other people within the organization are going to be saying, what's going on here? You're failing everybody. This is not the way that this works. We know that 8 out of 10 people pass the driver's test first time. So if everybody's failing, I mean, now saying that, if you're watching from Europe and you're in the UK, there are test centers in London that do have very high fail rates, but that's a different kettle of fish, because in the UK and in Europe, new drivers are driving on manual transmissions, and it is a very, very different driving environment when you're driving in these big imperial cities. So know that for the purposes of taking your driver's test in London and Paris and other places in Europe. Vehicle inspections, okay, and we put up these videos already. Corey put up these videos for us. The most common mistakes on a driver's test and automatic fails. And do a pre-trip inspection on your vehicle before going down the night before. Make sure that your insurance and your registration is valid. Make sure that the seat belts work, the seats are secure, the doors open and close from the inside and outside. There's no damage to the glass, no damage to the body. There isn't anything under the vehicle that's hanging down or anything that's leaking. Tire pressure is good on all your vehicles. Most of these late model vehicles are all going to have tire pressure monitoring systems on them. Know how to turn on the secondary controls. As I said, air conditioning in the summertime, defrost in the wintertime. Know how to turn on the windshield wipers, high, low. Make sure you know how to turn on the windshield washer fluid, know how to turn on the headlights and high-low beams. And they may ask you these questions. I have had students who've gone down and they've asked them to turn on these secondary controls when they get in the vehicle. As well, know how to know your hand signals. Right turn, okay? Straight out is left turn, and then pointing down, your elbow bent downwards is stopping or slowing down. The reason they want you to know these hand signals is not because potentially your vehicle the signals could stop working on your vehicle. It's because motorcycle riders and cyclists and kids on scooters and those types of things might be using hand signals. That's the reason that you need to know the hand signals when you go down, and they may ask you these on your driver's test. Shoulder checking, shoulder checking, shoulder checking. This is the number one error on driver's test. Space in front, 3 to 4 second following distance for the duration of your test and after your test, because if you're not near anything, it's less likely that you're going to hit something. Parallel parking, I've had smart drivers ask me this question over the years. Can I adjust my mirrors down when I'm doing my parallel parking? And the answer is no, you cannot, because the examiner is simply not going to wait for you for 30 seconds or 40 seconds or however long it takes you to adjust your mirrors when you're driving. Now, some newer vehicles will have an automatic adjustment that as soon as you put it into reverse, the mirrors will automatically readjust. If you can figure out how to do that according to the owner's manual and the specs of your car, then that's fine, and it'll automatically do that when you put the transmission into reverse. But for the rest of us who have old vehicles that are not, high tech, you can't adjust your mirrors for the purposes of a driver's test. You can use a backup camera, you can glance at it, you can use your mirrors, but for the most part on reversing, you have to be looking out through the back window. This comes back to what I said about the task of the driving examiner, the driving tester, is to assess your ability to have due care and control of the vehicle. And I had another driving examiner from Ohio say to me on a chat, or in a comment rather, on the Ohio maneuverability test video, that you had to just use your mirrors to do the Ohio maneuverability test. And I challenged them on this, and I said, you probably want to check with the driving examiners at the BMV, and you want to check with your superiors, because that's simply not true. Why are we teaching new drivers to use just one tool? When you're reversing, when you're backing up, when you're maneuvering in parking lots, use all your tools. Use your backup camera, use your mirrors, turn your head, shoulder check, right? The reason I advocate shoulder checking is you're moving your head, it implements and creates driving habits. ABS, always be scanning. You're always looking, and that is the reason for shoulder checking. Technology, blind spot detectors, backup cameras, proximity sensors, these are just backups to good driving. You still need to scan, and you still need to look around your vehicle. No road signs. Read road signs. Practice in and around the test center on the day that you're going to be doing your test. So for example, if your test is on a Thursday at 10 o'clock in the morning, make sure that you're practicing in and around the test center at 10 o'clock in the morning during the weekdays. For parallel parking with cones or doing any other maneuver, oftentimes these will be set up in a closed circuit area in and around the test center where you're going to be taking your test. You can go in after hours. Some test centers will leave it set up for you, and you can go in on the weekends. Don't go in during the day, during business hours, because the driving examiners are in there working in those types of things and you're just in their way. So know that for practicing and getting ready for your test. The piece about traffic signs is know the traffic signs in and around the test center where you're going to be taking your test, because it will make you proactive by knowing how the road is going to change. For example, merge signs, right? You're going to know where you're going to get into a bottleneck and you're going to have to move over if you're on that roadway. Here in Vernon, where the test center is, they love to bring you up here to where I live, and there is a park nearby me, and there's a cautionary sign that warns you of a playground, which is one person chasing a ball on the sign. It's diamond shaped, yellow background, black lettering, black symbols, and underneath is a regulatory sign that says 30 kilometers an hour, which is in effect from sunrise to sunset. If you are going faster than 30 kilometers an hour in that park, along that park, that's an automatic fail on a driver's test. It's the same thing as speeding in a school zone when a speed zone is in effect. That is an automatic fail on a driver's test. So school signs, road markings, do not cross over solid white lines, which are often found at intersections and crosswalks. That is demerits, probably 10 demerits on a driver's test. Slow speed maneuvers, I talked about this in the introduction. Most people are learning how to prepare for a driver's test backwards. They're doing the driving, they're getting their left-hand turns, their right-hand turns, and those types of things. And then 2 days before the driver's test, like, oh my God, I have to learn how to parallel park and three-point turn, those types of things. You should be doing the slow speed maneuvers first, because those will improve your overall driving. At minimum, lower 48 and all the provinces and territories in Canada, parallel parking, backing into a parking space, three-point turn. Know those those three maneuvers at minimum. The only places that I know of that don't do parallel parking are California, Maryland, and Ohio. Ohio is the Ohio Maneuverability Test, which Corey's put up the video for that. Thank you. California, sometimes Oregon, gets you to back up along a curb for 50 feet. And the trick to that maneuver is to be staying 3 feet, 1 meter away from the curb, so that way you have some wiggle room to maneuver as you're backing up 50 feet. The state of Maryland gets you to do a 2-point reverse turn, which is pulling up and then backing around the corner. Now, they get you to do a 2-point reverse turn in Kentucky as well, but some people think it's called a 3-point reverse turn or all those other things. It's the same maneuver, just pulling up and backing around a corner. It's not a 3-point turn. A 3-point turn is doing essentially a U-turn, except the street is too narrow. So you got to go around, back up, and then go again. That's a 3-point turn for the purposes of your driver's test. Lane positioning, move to the right lane after turning left. So if you come up to a multi-lane intersection and you turn left, you have to move back over to the right lane. The reason that you have to move over to the right lane, every state, every province has a sign that says slower traffic, stay right. You are going to be the slower traffic on the roadway, because for the purposes of a driver's test, you have to drive the posted speed limit or the flow of traffic, whichever is less. So that means that you're going to be the slowest vehicle on the roadway because you're doing the posted speed limit. Unless the driving tester, the driving examiner, tells you to turn left again in a couple of blocks, move back over to the right lane. The tester, the examiner, will not tell you to move back into the right lane. But for the purposes of a driver's test on a multi-lane road, you need to be in that right lane. You need to left lane to left lane, right lane to right lane on multi-lane roads when you're turning left and right. Do not drift over. Merging, lane changes, and moving the vehicle laterally. Moving the vehicle laterally simply means moving sideways. You're also going to have skills to maneuver in parking lots. And the trick to maneuvering in parking lots is go slow and signal. Every time you change directions of the vehicle, every time you merge or go sideways, you need to signal. Communicating effectively with other traffic, positioning your vehicle correctly to communicate intent with other road users on the roadway. Assess competency. The driving examiner is going to assess your ability to have due care and control of the vehicle in traffic and changing traffic conditions. Demerit points, as I talked about, there's 2 ways to fail a driver's test. You will be assigned demerits for minor and major errors. Minor errors are 5 to 10 points. If you drift in your lane, that's probably going to be 5 points. If you go around a corner and you drift from the right lane into the left lane without signaling or without doing your observation checks, that's probably going to be 20 points. At the end of the test, they will give you feedback. They will tell you whether you passed or failed, and they will give you a bit of a debrief. Except in the city of New York, where you have to log on to their website after 6 o'clock and find out whether you passed or failed. As I said, unfortunately, a lot of driving examiners get blamed for not being successful on their driver's test. They're not the ones that you need to blame. You simply could not produce the skills to show safety in changing traffic conditions, and oftentimes the traffic condition is the reason that you didn't or weren't successful on passing your driver's test. Somebody cut you off, threw you off on your driver's test, or there was a crash and you had to move into the other lane and move around safely, and you couldn't do that for the purposes of your driver's test. So know that. Okay, good luck on your driver's test, and remember, pick the best answer, not necessarily the right answer. First thing you need to do the day of going down for your driver's test after the 6 or 8 weeks that you've practiced, make sure that you do a pre-trip inspection on your vehicle. That's essentially checking that all the fluids under the hood are topped up, that all the lights work on it. You go around the vehicle, make sure that your pre-trip inspection includes the seatbelt on the passenger side, that you know how to turn on the defrost, the windshield wipers, the washer fluid, headlights, low beam, high beam. Make sure that you know how to do all of that. Registration and insurance are valid, because unfortunately I've had smart drivers over the years who their insurance has lapsed, their registration has lapsed, and they're denied a driver's test. Brake lights out, for example. If you have a brake light out, they will not take you out for your driver's test, owing to the fact that your vehicle is deemed unsafe. So do a pre-trip inspection on your vehicle before showing up at the driver's test center. Today we're talking about driving examiners, their role in you being successful on passing your driver's test. And unfortunately, too many people have come back over the years and said to me, oh, the DMVs and the test centers are just looking for more money. Believe me, the $50 that you pay, if you do pay $50, to take your driver's test is not worth it. Okay, they're not trying to scam you. Unfortunately, for many of you who are upset or angry that you weren't successful in passing your driver's test and failed, and are blaming the driving examiner, blaming the tester, that's probably not true. Okay, you need to keep in mind that these people sit in a car 5 days a week, 6 days a week, with anywhere from 10 to 15 different road tests a day, and they see the mistakes that people make. They see how people drive who are competent, and they know whether you are going to be safe on the roadway. So it's not likely their fault, okay? More likely what happened was there was a traffic situation that developed that you were unable to deal with. You simply didn't have the skills. And we know as traffic safety professionals that most people, even in this day and age of the GDL and the GLP programs, the graduated driving licensing programs, that people get their driver's license and they're booked in for their driver's test 6 to 8 weeks before they actually go in for their test, is when they start training, they start driving. You don't have a great deal of experience, and the driving examiners know that. What you need to do in order to be successful in passing your driving test is to show to the examiner, the tester, that you have due care and control of the vehicle in changing traffic conditions. And many times it simply doesn't happen, unfortunately, and you're unsuccessful in your driver's test. Now, if you take driver training, your chances of passing increase exponentially. If you don't take any driver training, you don't come on YouTube, you don't watch my videos, you don't book a driving lesson with a driving instructor, not an examiner, an instructor, people that teach other people how to pass a driver's test every day, your chances of passing are about 50%. If you take driving lessons with an instructor, your chances of passing increase to about 96%. So know that. If the driving examiner intervenes either verbally or physically, that is an automatic fail on a driver's test. Elevator fan, you are absolutely right. This is one of the ways that you can automatically fail a driver's test. And have a look at the video. Corey will put that up for you on automatic fails on a driver's test. Also, most common mistakes on a driver's test. And the number one most common mistake on driver's test is not shoulder checking. Shoulder checking, shoulder checking, shoulder checking. Not shoulder checking is to driving what not checking to see if a weapon is loaded is to gun safety. Why on any planet would you change directions of a 2,000, 2,500 pound vehicle and not shoulder check in the direction that you're moving the vehicle? Paul, meaning when you asked to show the examiner prior to the road test and the examiner was picky despite passing the test. Oh, okay. I know what you're saying. So you went out, you did your driver's test, the driving examiner gave you some feedback and you thought, you're being a bit picky on those types of things. The driving examiners, you know, they want you to be successful. They want you to not get into a crash. So they're trying to give you some feedback on things that you can work on after you get your driver's license and you're driving so that you can significantly reduce your chances of being involved in a crash. That's what they're doing. The first thing we said the day before you go down for your driver's test, make sure that you do a pre-trip inspection on your vehicle, that everything is working. Clean out the footwells. Go down to the local car wash. They all have free vacuum cleaners and those types of things. Give it a quick vacuum out. Get rid of all the fast food wrappers out of the footwell and those types of things. Make sure that the seatbelt is working on the passenger side. I actually had a student who was denied a driver's test because the seatbelt was not working on the passenger side. And again, this is a safety issue. So make sure that the doors open and close from the inside and from the outside before you head down for your driver's test. And as I said, secondary controls within the vehicle at minimum. Know how to turn on the headlights, high-low beams, know how to turn on the defrost in the summertime, know how to turn on the air conditioning, and as well windshield wipers, high-low, and how the windshield washer fluid squirts onto the windshield, because you may need that. Especially now that it's been super cool here in Canada for the last couple of weeks or whatnot, you may need to defrost the glass in the vehicle. Excellent. So we talked about driving examiners, driving testers. What is their job? The last point that I will make about driving testers, driving examiners is they're old, crusty. They get in the vehicle and they're barking orders at you. Yes, unfortunately, sometimes it's going to happen. Don't let it throw you off your game. Focus on what you're doing. Okay? Just grit your teeth and say, I am going to pass. Pass your driver's test. Focus on what you're doing. Take away the driving examiner's right to fail you. Nothing less, nothing more. That's what you need to do, right? Their job is to assess your ability to have due care and control of the vehicle in changing traffic conditions. Your job is to take away the driving examiner's right to fail you. Good luck in your driver's test, and remember, pick the best answer, not necessarily the right answer. Have a great night. Bye now.